got this right. Okay, hold on a second. What did I do? Oh yeah, people. Once again, it's been so long. We're in quarantine. Coronavirus is all around us. And we're doing Totally Local at night. That's right, folks. It's Totally Local After Dark. WOOBIE edition. I can't believe it.
Doing? How you doing?
How's it going, man?
You know, quarantined up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like everyone else, I guess. I'm okay. You know, better than most.
Better than most. Yeah, some people are having a rough time of it, you know?
Hard question to ask or answer, I guess. You know, like, how are you doing? Like,
I mean, it's one of those things.
Comparatively, you know.
Well, it's one of those things where whenever I'm like talking to somebody, like say like some close relative of theirs died, like I'm the awkward person that'll walk up to him and be like, "So how's it going?" So I don't really know the right you know, words sometimes to use in order to convey. You know,
I'm also gonna do all the touching the face stuff that you're not supposed to do, but that's just my natural Zoom.
You don't have to tell me about that. Like I do that all the time.
So, you know, I mean, I'm okay. Things are all right. I stopped going out on March 12th, and have gone out to a couple stores. I just heard today that you can't go out to the stores because you're gonna get on a long line and wear a mask. That was not my experience last week.
Yeah. I don't know. I've worn a mask, but I haven't had. What's up, DJ? Uncle's nephew is listening, and he's wondering where's Leo. And I can only assume Leo is like sitting across like the room from you.
Why would you? You've been here to see that that's never the case.
Yeah.
Why would you? You know, ask Ralph, and that's not true.
I guess. Well, that was just my guess. But people have been asking me that. It's like I'm chopped liver, man. I've been doing this show on my own since the beginning. Leo came on, and then he vanished. And ever since then, people are like, "Hey, man, where's Leo?" And I'm like, I don't know. Shit got Corona took the fight out of him, you know.
I invited him.
Yeah, please. No, he's not. This is the WOOBIE edition. We don't need Leo on it being a naysayer and a negative Nancy. We don't need that. And hello, Philip, aka DJ Uncle's nephew, says hello, boys.
Awesome.
So,
yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Cool.
he also said, OMG, screw Leo. I shit you not. That's what he wrote.
No.
Well, one love. Anyway, WOOBIE.
Yeah.
What do you want to get into tonight? There's a lot of topics to cover.
It's up to you. I mean, if you're the host, I have a lot to say.
Well, I mean, I don't want to seem egotistical, but you listened to my song and you hated it. You hated the song.
I didn't hate it. I asked you.
That's the best review ever. I didn't
hate it. I asked you to send me the song without the music.
But I
wanted to just hear the lyrics because I wanted to hear it as though it was deaf poetry. Because you're right.
It's not deaf poetry, first of all.
But I mean, that's how it came across to me, and I didn't understand the music as it related to the words that you were saying. Like I couldn't.
I mean, they're intrinsically, like I said in the text, they're intrinsically listed. First of all, I don't know if you realize this about me, WOOBIE, but I have incredibly thick skin. So I've been dealing with you for years, and your little comments.
Yeah, people who are around me have to, obviously, right? Yeah.
Have you ever had it? Have you ever had somebody be like, "WOOBIE, you're an asshole. What the fuck are you talking about?" Besides me, if I'm really drunk.
As I've been a worker in school, and I use the glass I use, I'm on Zoom calls, and this is the cup that I was given by my friends. If you guys can see it. So Len gave me a giant cup of shut the fuck up because I'm totally aware of the fact that I overshare my opinion, but I also do it from a place of actually giving a shit about whatever it is that the person is doing. Like I actually listened to your song multiple times. I just couldn't gel the way that like there were claps and the way that the kick drum beats, I just couldn't associate it with the words.
How do you think? Okay,
It wasn't while I was listening to you say what you were saying, I was imagining a whole different like symphony of music, not this very abstract, restrained. No, you know?
That's the song though. I mean, listen. How do you think I sat down and made like in your head? How do you think I sat down and made the song from soup to nuts? Like, how do you think?
Well, I don't know, but I do know that I heard you say at one point you love being like you've rifled off like 40 beats, 60 beats. You're like, I'm just on fire. And then in my head, I always think to myself, people do that, like, that's 38% of those, yeah, the other 12.
You broke up a little bit. What did you say? 34.
No, but I mean, I don't know. How did you do it? I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. How did you synthesize it down to that? That's the question.
I mean, I really, first of all, I personally liked the instrumental. This all happened because, well, it probably happened for a number of reasons, but the way I started making my own, I started making the instrumentals, and then I was just like, well, because you can get them from other people, but I didn't like what other people were making, so I was just like, well, I'll make my own.
Let's just stop there for a second then.
What?
The instrumentals, there are many layers to it. Like, so there's a like a bass kick drum beat basically.
Yes.
There's a clap thing that happens, and there's a weird like ambiance like hovering thing that, you know, like, so right, so how in your mind do all those things go together? Because it didn't, like, when I was listen, if you took away all the words and I just listened to that, I'm not sure. I just wouldn't. There's no song there to me.
I mean, well, me personally, like, that's how I made the instrumental, and I made a lot. You know, you make a lot of Well, I guess some people do, some people don't. But like, I make a lot of them, and that one I really like. I have right now like 50 instrumentals that I listen to,
right.
And they're not. There's some that aren't good. There's some that I used to think were good and I don't like as much. And then there's ones where I'm like, this is going on the next album. And it doesn't really mean that it's like the quote unquote, whatever it means to be the best song. It's just the one that kind of, you know, resonates with what I'm feeling.
Yeah, totally. And I guess that's it. The vibration, like, again, like specifically, I just like the music starts in the song and then all of a sudden you start and it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? And then I try to figure out how it's all, and I'm like, by the time I'm catching up to what you're saying, see, the thing is also, if somebody's going to say a lot of things, well, if somebody's going to say a lot of things, then I'll listen to it over and over and over until I hear a lot of things. Because, like, I'm not just going to go, I don't care what they're saying, and I'll get lost in the music. But you don't have music to get lost into. It's like not like a Marco Benevento song where you're like, there's music.
Well, no, I'm not fucking Marco Benevento, bro.
I want to hear exactly what you're saying.
You can't hear. If you listen to it, you could hear it. I mean, I had it mixed and then I had it mastered so that you could specifically hear it.
I keep getting lost in the music part where I keep going.
Man, that's what it's all about, man. Getting lost in the music. Yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you. I sat down, I made it, and then I think about it for a while, and I think about it for a while, and then like I didn't write for that song. For some of them, I didn't do this. I didn't like write the lyrics down. I just listened to it over and over again, and then I write the lyrics.
You didn't think it was aggressive, your take on the music you were hearing? It sounded to me more like a West Coast feel, like where somebody would go, lay me feedback, and you were like, deaf poetry feel. Let me tell you how I feel, and I'm going to stop. That's what anyway, again, to each his own. I don't want to,
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it came out, man. I wasn't trying to, like, be, like, a deaf poet, but if
I remember
it was, then word up.
When our friends, like Patrick, J.P. Garwood wrote a poem that our friend Leonard turned into a song, right, Where Gardens Grew. And I remember, like, reading it, the poem, and like in my head I'm picturing it to be like this pretty, and then I heard the song and it was like, and then I was like, no, well, that's not how it goes. That's not how the song goes.
This is the problem, though. This is the problem. You have your own concept in your head, and you're like, it doesn't hear.
Well, especially if you read the words before the song was ever even existing. You know, like I read it and I was like, and Patrick walked into my bedroom and it was like, he goes, "Woobie, listen to this." And then he read me the poem, and then it became a song. And in my head, it was like something pretty, you know, and the actual song's like aggressive, like, like very like cool, very way cooler than my head's version. But when I first heard it, I was like, no, that's wrong. So your song will grow on me. I swear to God.
I mean, if it does or it doesn't really.
It will.
That wasn't why I made the song. I'll let you know this: that it's on the album. That's the actual first track of the album. That starts the whole thing off.
Interesting.
And B, I mean, I think the idea
is
of
the title too? Is it the title track?
No, the name of the album is "A Season in Hell."
I remember hearing the whole explanation on the. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
DJ Uncle's nephew loves the song. He wants to hear it in his car, and he says it's wonderful. So I'm hearting everything he's saying because I can't agree
He
with him
is a better source than I am. He knows a lot more about music than I do. That guy knows everything.
That's the other thing too, Lauren. I guess it's. I mean, it's. I guess I don't think I could. I think if I made something, I think Lauren, even though she's my wife, would I'd be able to get the vibe off of her if she liked it or not, and she really likes it. So, but I mean, I guess that's super. That's like the most biased you could get.
I mean, come on. That's like if you start relying upon that, that's not true. Your kid.
The reason the way
your kid will tell you you're doing a great job too. Gus,
I rap to him all the time. He loves it
until he's about 13, and then he'll come and say, "My father's an asshole."
No, he'll always be like, "My dad is super cool and super hip."
I agree with that.
I have faith in you. Thank you.
I have faith in you.
Yeah, man. I think that maybe the idea of it, like the instrumental and then the juxtaposition of how you're seeing the lyrics, maybe that was on purpose. But
well, I'll keep listening. Then I'll try to. You know, wait, let me just ask one last question about it.
What
was the very first thing? Was it like what was it? What was the first instrumentation that started it?
Like what did I put on there first?
Yeah, if there was nothing else, it was probably
it was probably the chorus part, the part where it's like dun, 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 dun,
at the end, the very end piece.
No, it's like it's on the chorus part where I say fresh air. It goes dun, 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 that sound. That's
yeah.
That was the first thing. I was like, that sounds cool, man. You know.
Yeah, I like it. I'll keep listening.
You kind of like it. It's okay. It's not.
No, I'll keep listening. I'm willing to keep listening. I guarantee.
What have you been listening to? What's your like Corona playlist?
Well, I look at like the news or like pop culture feeds all the time, and then go down a rabbit hole. So like, you know, unfortunately, John Prime.
Yeah,
you know,
some old 70s white guy, rock guy, folk guy.
No, he's the guy from Oh Boy Records. He is Oh Boy Records, him and his wife. And the guy who I really like, Dan Reeder, who's a musician in Germany, American who lives in Germany for the last 30 years. You know the guy who I was showing you who goes like, I got all the fucking work I need. No, that guy.
I mean, you play music all the time for me when I'm drunk, and then I don't remember.
John Prine is like the foremost like Americana like folk guy.
How come I never heard of him?
Well, I don't know. He's literally in the Hall of Fame, American Music Hall of Fame type deal. Like,
he's not hip.
Well, he died in a place in Nashville. You know, like he's been in Nashville for the last. You know, he's 73 years old.
Corona?
Yeah, coronavirus complications.
Man,
and
they're getting everybody, man.
It was interesting because I had a rough night sleeping last night. I woke up at 3 or 4 in the morning to look out my window and see like incredible lights, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" I just didn't expect lightning. But it was, I walked, and then not seconds later, crazy cracks of thunder, like, whoa. So I was like freaked out at 4 in the morning, and I read about John, so I listened to him and Iris Dement sing a song that was from like the West Hollywood, West 54th Street Studios. Meanwhile, Heather hits me up not but a few hours later and says, "What's the website you use to do chords?" And I said, "Well, I use Chordy. That's what I like." And she goes, "I want to do a John Prine song." I said, "Well, I was literally listening to him at 4 a.m, like to this thunderstorm." And I sent her the link of what I listened to. She hits me back, of course, and says, "That's exactly the song I wanted." Now, I think maybe I've heard her play it, or I've heard, but it was, like, of course, another synergy in this time of like music. Well, yeah, like it's really synergy, right?
I love synergy. Synergy's great. There you go.
Yeah, synergy. I mean, synergy.
Who put that on the wall? That's brilliant.
What? What do you mean?
The mat, dude. The goblin mat.
Oh, that? My goblin mat?
Listen,
I put it on the wall. It's synergy. I can't sit across the table from you and play some Magic.
I was wondering to myself. I was like, is Magic gonna come up? And I'm like,
well, listen. I don't understand why it's not possible if you hang a light over this, like not a light, like a camera that just shows the board. Like, isn't that possible that we all transmit?
I mean, yeah, you set yours up. I've got the super high-tech situation. I could definitely do it. So you set yours up, and I'll set mine up. And if it works, we could live stream that and make sure that we have 0 viewers. There will be 0 people, but I would definitely do that.
I disagree. I think sports are taking on a whole new name, and our strategizing. Well,
I didn't even really get to go into full detail about. Listen, I've been on quarantine since December. Like, I've been dealing with a baby. I've been dealing with a pregnant woman, then I was dealing with a baby, and then I'm dealing with a pandemic. So I've been quarantined more or less for a very long time.
Yeah, did you say which December did you say?
Well, that's when Gus was born, but
yeah, I'm talking October.
Well, what I'm saying is, obviously, leading up to that, I was dealing with a pregnant woman.
That's right. No, but I'm just saying, right? You're absolutely right.
Let me finish, WOOBIE. Let me finish my point. You would, first of all, side note, you would do horrible on CNN because.
Oh yeah, totally.
Or maybe you would do good. I mean, I guess they kind of do like Budinsky with each other. So, where'd you go?
What?
Where'd you go, man?
Oh,
fine. So first of all, in that time, I've made so many Magic the Gathering decks that. It's insane in the anticipation that probably around now we would be playing together games of Magic right now if there wasn't a corona going around. You know what I mean?
Are you saying up until right? I agree with you. Like you mean like up until
March.
that? No, but since you've been on quarantine, you've been making them. You're saying?
I haven't since the baby was born because I don't have any time.
But I'm saying you had about 32 decks. Did you make?
But there's brand new. There's like around 8 to 10 new ones that like.
Yeah, I don't even understand.
Never even played.
Can't even understand. That's amazing. Like you need to slow down.
It's just it keeps me. It's meditative. It's relaxing.
Well, what's interesting is like. I always talk therapeutically about the idea that like is process, right? Like that, and then there's different content that can fill the like basic structure. But like
I'm doing this in honor of you. I have a koozie on my beer.
Nice.
Cheers. There's a structure.
But like what you're doing is figuring out all the derivatives, like all the like. There's basic like, all right, here's what I'm going for, and then I want to figure out every version of how to go for that, like. It used to just be global categories. Like, I want light. I want, toughness. Or whatever. But now it's just like, here's what I want. I want to do.
Did you ever hear, it works into my human design chart. Have you ever heard about human design before? Sort of like horoscopes and the I Ching, like, mixed together. It's crazy.
Okay.
But it talks about how I how my personality is. How instead of building, like, one house at a time, if I were to build a bunch of houses, I would build like the foundation, the foundation, the foundation, the foundation, and like I'd build each floor on each one of them at the same time.
Well, so when you do my job, and then people come in and talk to you, kids, high school, or their parents, and then they tell you their story, right? Now I've done it for 20 plus years, right? So then you go like,
what's your like official title? Because I always get it wrong.
I am a school social worker. But I'm on loan to the counseling department. So all the kids have a counselor who's a school social worker instead of just a counselor. So we're more like
my counselor sucked.
Well, your counselor was more in line with like
her name was Mrs. Cox. Like, whatever, Mrs. Cox.
You know, I'm more in line with social emotional learning as well.
And they did not give a shit about social emotional learning when I went to school.
Well, they give all the kids.
I was put on the bad boy list. I was a bad boy, Woobie, believe it or not.
Well, what did you do? I mean,
I was just loud. I would just be a wise ass in class and like anger. Like I'd make people laugh.
All right, so
we can do. Oh.
Well, tell me when you say you're a bad boy, what were the consequences that you faced, so I can understand the level of bad boy that you probably.
Okay. I didn't face. They just didn't want to deal. I think they just didn't want to deal with me. So like there were no real. I never did anything really wrong, so there were never any real super like consequences. Like
not bad boy.
I'd get detention for being late, but I would be late to school every like so often. Like I had the record of like however many you're supposed to be each quarter. Like I had so many, and the school called my mom and they were like, look, he's gonna be in a lot of big trouble. And she's like, well, what do you want me to do? So then they just kind of shrugged and nothing ever happened. So like I never got in real like trouble.
Well,
you know,
think about it like this.
I wasn't allowed to do the school musical my freshman year.
Well, I mean, when you were 14, you probably were paving the way for, delinquency.
Well, they wouldn't. Yeah, but I did bad. I got bad grades, and then they wouldn't let me do it. And in my head, I'm like, that's counterintuitive.
You couldn't do the school play because, it wasn't like you couldn't do sports because you weren't eligible. You couldn't do the play because you weren't eligible. Is that what happened?
I couldn't do the play because I got bad grades.
As per parents or the school?
As per my parents did not care. It was the school. The school was
interesting.
Like
they must have had a policy it was an activities policy. I bet you.
But isn't that in all your learning? Isn't that kind of counterintuitive to like somebody's bored with school and then you take away something that they're actually interested in?
Well, that is a question you're asking for the ages because it's not one that can be answered.
I can answer it right now. You don't take away if somebody's interested in something. Don't take it away.
No, it can't be answered relative to the whole populace. It has to be answered relative to
the answer. Boom. Next question.
Some people do well in response to fear-based going, I need to do this so I don't lose that. And other people get disheartened and they lose, so you can't, there's multiple ways to, do it. And I guess
if you're like playing sport ball, I don't want to be like prejudiced, but if you're playing sport ball and they're like, you better do good in history or you can't play
You're the one. Well, that's what happened to you. I guarantee it. What happened to you was there was a sport ball kid who wasn't eligible based upon activities eligibility, which is according to a whole separate entity called the NJSIAA, the New Jersey Interscholastic Athletic Association, that governs all.
When did that happen? When did that come into play?
When you were in high school, that was 1,000% a thing, right? So there was a governing body of all.
I mean, sports. I went to Catholic school. Does that matter?
That's Highlands and all Union Catholic, and to would you go Modern Day or
I went to Modern Day.
Yeah, well, Modern Day. St. John Vianney. Every one of those schools are all subject to the Monsignor Donovan.
Why are we talking about sport ball, dude? I didn't play no sport ball.
Because the reason that you were subjected to a penalty for not doing enough, you didn't meet the academic threshold to be allowed to participate in athletic.
Yeah, no shit. It really sucks.
Activities. Yeah, well, that's what you were subject. You should have told the wrestler kid or the football kid who wasn't doing well enough that, they're the ones who are bringing the whole thing down.
I'd get a real big wedgie and be stuffed in a locker or something. I'm not gonna walk
That's
up
what
to
happened.
somebody,
That's
be like, "Hey, kid, you got me in trouble. It's all your fault."
So you went to Highlands
myself, huh?
You went to Highlands.
I'm from Highlands.
Well, where did you go to high school then?
I went to Mater Dei in Middletown.
Oh, right.
Go
Where's the public high school? The public high school is Highlands?
It's Henry Hudson High School in Highlands. I wish I would have went there. My parents always threatened me. They're like, "We're going to send you to Hudson." I'm like, "Good. It's right up the street. This is stupid."
That still exists?
Huh? Hudson?
It still exists?
Yeah.
And where do the people I know there's a Keyport High School. Mm-hmm. Where are the other surrounding towns? My sister works at
Regional.
Okay.
I mean, there's Middletown North, Middletown South, Shore Regional.
So Henry Hudson High School still exists as a Group 1 very small school.
Yeah, it's in Highlands.
Highlands?
It's in Highlands. It's at the top of the hill. It's next to Twin Lights, actually. Highlands is a beautiful town. It's very scenic. There's a weird towny vibe in part of it, and then you have these out-of-towners.
What you might see happening, because of what's been going on, right? Basically, right, 75%, let's say, in better districts, maybe only 60%, but 75% of the school budget is funded by tax base, which is funded by people having jobs, and so in New Jersey, we have a ridiculous number of school districts. Uh-huh. Relative to other places, we have a huge number of school districts that have all the workings of a hierarchy and administration, and they don't go, "Hey, Wells Fargo, why don't we all buy the same stuff together and do?" They're not regionalized. And you're going to see coronavirus affect that tremendously, I think.
Man, school sucks, dude. They got to change all that shit up. It's a bunch of bureaucratic bullshit. You don't have to say it. You don't have to nod your head, but I know you believe what I'm saying.
Schools, police, fire, all those ones are the ones that are entrenched in a town. And people, where I grew up in Westfield, you could drive and go to a Garwood cop, a Family cop, a Scotch Plains cop,
why are you going to the cops, you narc?
Without going 3 or 4 miles. You know what I mean? So we have the same level of administration in a very small population.
Administration? How much administration you need? You got to let the teachers teach, bro.
Well, we have a lot of school districts, maybe 500 plus school
districts. What is a district? What does that do? What does that even mean, a district? Isn't it just school to school to school? What does a district do? Is somebody in charge of the district? Is there a boss in charge of the district? That sounds fascist.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. There's a superintendent in charge of all the teachers.
What is there's the principal of a school, and then there's a superintendent? Is that the principal of principals?
Well, think about it like this, right?
What does a superintendent do, man?
Well, think about it like this, right? They're the mayor of a town called Schoolville, and in the town that I work in, they have a high school that has 2,300 kids, so bigger than many colleges. And they have 3 middle schools that have 800 kids each.
What do they do, man? Answer my question.
They make sure that on every given day, all of the system is functioning.
Oh, come on.
Dude.
It sounds like a cushy-ass job to me. They're just rolling around in their fucking Benzes. They're in their Beamer, Benz, or Bentley rolling around.
Well, every single... I was
superintendent. You need somebody with their boots on the ground teaching the children.
No way. Listen.
Son of... What?
I was in charge of one thing one time. And
you got fired.
No. I was in charge of a college basketball team. I was 4 years in charge of a basketball program, meaning if you're the head coach, you're really like the superintendent or the mayor, you're in charge. You have your finger on the pulse of all of it. And it's incredibly difficult, especially because no matter what you do, somebody isn't happy and it's not working out, and your ego strength and ability to
I would just lay down the law. If you're telling me a superintendent is just in charge, like the president, then I'd be laying down the law to people.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well,
do they get paid cushy amounts? Are they making like 6 figures or what?
Well, the way it works
ridiculous.
is
they make should be making more.
No way. That's not true. They are in charge. Listen, I used to be in charge, and now I just get to go home. Now they don't get to go home. 365 days a year. The guy who's in charge in my district, or my sister who's a principal, and anyone who's in leadership, they don't get to go home. They have to.
What are they doing? They're pushing papers around.
Listen, if there's a fire in town,
what does that have to do with the superintendent?
Because what do you mean that disrupts the neighborhood, the school? If there's
you're making it sound like a superintendent's like Batman, dude. Superintendent.
Listen, in a big New Jersey town where everyone cares, that person is in charge of knowing about everything that happens to everyone because it influences the place that all his kids go. It is a very complicated job.
Okay, do they make 6 figures?
Usually they make between $160,000 and $200,000.
Oh my God.
And yet, that is underpaid compared to the level of responsibility because there are people who can make, if they're in administration and working enough years, there are assistant principals in the world who could make $150,000.
I don't know if you've ever heard of a little movie called Lean on Me, but the principal does everything. I don't know what the superintendent does, but get in the way. And
You're crazy.
You need a megaphone and a bat, and you got to get through to the kids. The superintendents make too much money. The teachers make too little money.
You're talking crazy.
It sounds like a bunch of bureaucracy bullshit to me.
No. If there is...
Yeah, kind of a little bit.
No. If there's bureaucracy bullshit, it's because the superintendent is responding to the adult human beings who are living in their town, the parents of the kids, and they have to serve a lot of masters. So too does the police commissioner or that's awesome, Asbury Park. So, I mean, listen, let me give you an example. Please. There could be a situation where one group of parents who has a very large advocacy, lobbying,
Oh, great. Lobbying. You're comparing to a lobbyist. That's the last thing we need.
Well, again, I
with a spoon.
Well, I work for the largest union in the state, basically. I work for the largest union in the country, the National Education Association. So, yeah, we there's a large lobby. But what's interesting is some people will lobby for one thing, and other people will lobby for the exact opposite.
Who's lobbying for the children, man? Who's lobbying for the children?
Well, let me give you an example. One parent of an autistic kid will say, don't discriminate against my kid because they're not disabled, they're otherly abled.
Get out. And then kids expelled. Next.
Then another parent of an autistic kid will say, why would you possibly subject my kid to the same standard? And we will say, because...
Expelled. Get out. Next.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You want the Willy Wonka system of just like
Willy Wonka. Yeah, I guess that is kind of hard, but like autistic kids, like I don't know. I don't know what the proper thing to say about this is, but it seems like they're gonna need like special like attention. You know what I mean? And they're not gonna be able to take the same classes.
You're wrong in the sense that it's not called autism specifically anymore. It's called autism spectrum.
What does it matter the name?
I'll tell you why. Because it's not
many names, man.
No. Now it's called autism spectrum.
Yeah, I know spectrum.
Because, like you're saying, people who have the condition or the experience can be found along that. So
some of them are little, can't really interact really well,
And some of them can be Harvard scholars. You're exactly right. So the spectrum is hard to discern, and that's why you can't make why it's hard to work in education when you say, well, tell me how it is. Tell me what it is. Like, well, I don't know. Who are you talking about? Tell me who you're talking about, and I'll tell you. And what's interesting is people in leadership, all the way up to like the highest levels. We just had the Secretary of Education say
that blonde lady that does
yes,
math good.
Even her, she just said, like, listen, we're going to review the idea of the system of delivery to special education people or kids. Like we cannot be expected in this virtual world to deliver the same services as we could have delivered. And you can be sure.
That's the other thing.
Listen,
too.
wait. You can be sure that people would sue a district for not delivering the services that in the contract called IEP. You know what I mean? So people, the superintendent and people like that are really worried about how the entire town, every person in the town, not the most reasonable, but the unreasonable as well, are going to deal with something like this. And they have to deal with it every day in their face all the time. And it's really hard. They're doing an amazing job. Amazing.
We got a two-part question here from Mike McHenry, longtime listener, occasional commenter. Two-part question. Part one, what is your favorite Mushu? And two, is your favorite part the shoe, or the pancake? I don't eat Mushu. Do you eat Mushu? Do you Mushu?
I only have eaten it, I think, because Mike has ordered it. Mushu. Yeah.
What Oriental persuasion is it? Is it Japanese, Chinese?
Food. No, it's Chinese food. It's one of the Chinese food things. I think Mike gets it, and like it's pancake. Mushu is pancake.
Dude, I'm so boring when it comes to food. I never had a Mushu.
Me neither. And so I don't.
Well, here's a counterpoint, Mike. What is your favorite Mushu, and where do you get the best Mushu around here?
There you go.
Excuse me. And listen, if you can't talk to Leo while we're doing this, because if he's not going to be responding to my text, then
I disagree with you. That's the same thing I said to him was, we're on coronavirus. We're not going to make ego a part of this, and you're not either. So like he can dip in and out, whatever he wants, and you can, Well,
I'll be the judge of that. But anyway, back to what were we talking about? Mushu?
School. Last thing about that. Last thing about it was like today and the day before, not only Murphy, but
I think he's doing a good job.
Well, yeah, he is. And Mike Pence actually.
You know what? People are going to get mad at me, but it was refreshing. I listened to him, and I guess since the scale is so off, I was like, I'd rather listen to Mike Pence talk about this shit any day of the week, because it was so it's just so rigid and crackerific and like what you come to expect from a politician, that getting back to that, I was just like, I feel like I had like my dose of morphine after he was talking. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about.
But I completely agree. That's exactly the same experience I had, in the sense that he did these things and the stares to the camera.
I was just listening. I just listened to his dulcet tones while he was droning on.
Well, he does it at the podium, like with this stoic and like a couple hand gestures and stares into the camera. Exactly what you're saying he's doing.
Yeah.
But the question, but do you not like Donald Trump
care.
So here's where I'm struggling, because when I listen to him, and then I also listen to like podcasts often, especially comedians, and like they don't give a shit about they see things comedically. And so when I say to Leo, I'm like, I love watching the guy. Like,
he's funny as shit, dude. He's so funny.
It's amazingly funny and crazy.
They're never gonna catch up to him, They're never gonna catch up to him.
I'm watching pathology unfold in front of me in a coherent way. Like, it's not spiraling out of control. So I can't. Because I used to work.
What he's like? He's like that ultra conservative uncle you have that you got to see around Thanksgiving, and like at a certain point you're like, I love the guy. He's my uncle. I don't agree with anything he says, but I want some stuffing and gravy. I don't give a shit. Just give me my stuffing and gravy, and I'll just kind of block him out.
He 1,000% in every way lines up with having narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah,
right? Literally, he 1,000% has narcissistic personality disorder. The problem
It's
is
working for him. How could you call it a disorder? He's
exactly.
doing great.
That's why the problem is to make it in the DSM. In order to diagnose somebody, it has to disrupt life and like so. But you're like
life.
right. It's so interesting. It's like it's but like he like when he says I about things that
I could see Leo in the reflection of the mirror in the back of you. It's like a Where's Waldo. Listen, I don't get political on here. I don't really give a shit. Like it's all ridiculous. At this point, everything is so fucking pear-shaped. I don't know which end is up.
I'll tell you this. The other thing I wanted to talk about was how over the course of the last few years, the schools that I've worked in have been slowly dialing up everyone's access to, the internet, like, or
love the internet, big fan.
Devices, right? Like having your own personal device, and then that doesn't matter unless you put them on something. So we use Schoology, you know what I mean? So like, and while we were at school, this was being constantly in trying to be put on people to say like, do this, except when you can talk to somebody in person, you don't. Well, I'm telling you, in the last month, the shift from in-person education to Schoology online education with the help of Zoom, the way that the workforce has mobilized, like you hear about like Rosie the
by doing like,
dude,
you don't leave your house anymore. You could Schoologize from home. No? Too far?
Put crickets on.
I don't have a sound guy. I don't have a board.
All right. Here's what I'm going to do then for you. Not only am I going to counter your point right now, but now from this point forward, starting, I will send you the.
Please don't.
No, the YouTube, TikTok captures, Instagram captures of parents who are going to tell you their experience of, like the amount of work that teachers are doing to flood them with worksheets and webinars let's get like, no, teachers have gone hog wild with getting.
How hard is it to get fired as a teacher? Because I would be the worst teacher. I would do the absolute minimal, especially right now. Like, you got to be able to wing it. Like, it can't be easy to fire somebody, and you got to be able to bullshit your way through a semester or two. Am I wrong?
It is not easy at all to get fired, but it is easy to not get hired after you put in it used to be 3 years, but now a 4-year window of evaluation until you get tenure. As soon as you go through that 4-year window of tenure, if they say you did okay, then at that point it is hard to get
fired. That's what I would be shooting for, dude. I'd be shooting for that shit. I'd be writing those curriculums like off the top of my head. I'd be typing them up on my drive to work. I'd be like, blah, blah, blah.
What would happen is, here's the deal. There's a lot of formal things that are supposed to be done that are contextualized into how things are supposed to be done, that are told to the people who have to do them. But there's no way to keep track of it all. Like, if they actually, anyone who the they is, right. And so therefore the people who are told to do them, like, for instance, the Woods teacher who you met at a music show, right?
Woods teacher. They teach people about the woods?
They teach them how to use the wood shop.
Oh, okay.
Carl. You met him at
Carl, I remember him.
At a music show. Right. His skill set, let alone his ability to work with the kids and be an awesome person to them, overrides the fact that it doesn't matter if he has his lesson plan exactly right the way people want it. Like,
because he's got tenure.
No, because tenure or not, what I always say to people is like, I go, these are real people who have families and lives. Like,
Yeah.
do you really? Why do you want it? Why do you want them to lose their job? They're not the best at their job. Some people are. No, like
I want to say first and foremost, I congratulate all the teachers and people that work with children in that capacity.
right. So then people shouldn't get.
because
They're like,
it's a thankless job. It's got to be very difficult. And I know a lot of people that were teachers that quit because it was fucking depressing and sad, and it seemed really futile. So the people that are doing
Also,
it, I
listen.
congratulate you, salute you, congratulate you.
listen. Also, think about this.
Kids
How
must not
many-
give a shit, man.
No,
They must not
no.
give a shit.
Not true. Think about this. How many people in your life have you met that will tell you about the asshole hard teachers that in their life, in third grade or ninth grade, like so those people are awesome.
I didn't like.
I didn't like they made that kid.
College. Like I didn't
Well, they
find
made-
one teacher that I identified with until college, and that was like,
Well,
you know.
That's sad. I wish there were more, at least a couple along the way. But what I say to kids normally, because I know the couple along the way that they're dealing with, I say to them, like, why would I want you to have 7 people that you dig? Like, that is a ridiculous. That's like having 7 moms along the way. You're like,
Just
you're
cool
doing all.
people.
Love you.
Just, no, you
No.
don't have to. No, that's not.
That is unrealistic.
No, you're not. You're totally misunderstanding.
They-
You're totally misunderstanding what I'm
The
saying.
kid needs to learn how to adapt to
Let
the
me
mass.
finish. Let me finish. I'm not
Let it-
asking for a bunch of glad handers that are just gonna be fucking, just fluffing me up for the fucking, the big scene. I'm talking about like just decent folk that
No.
understood where I was coming from.
Exactly. I'm talking about the same thing. Why would you want me to have you? Why would you want that to be your lesson in how life is? High school is your first lesson in how life is.
It's a bureaucracy, and you got
I
to
need you
bullshit
to deal
people
with
in order to get
people.
through it.
Whoever you think is an asshole, I need you to go. I want you to go through that so that you can learn how to deal with.
Well,
your
they
pers-
just seem but you're a teacher. It just seemed like, in my opinion, they just didn't give a shit to take the time to sit down and be like, all right, why is this kid such an asshole? Let's figure it out. Like, they did not take the time to do that. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example.
Give me one second.
No.
Just say
hold
one
on. No. Let me give you an
talking about
example.
2 different things. We're talking about 2 different things. What you were just saying is teachers being assholes. You're now saying if you were an asshole, why didn't they take the time? I wasn't talking about
I'm
that.
a kid. I
wasn't talking about
kid
that.
in
I
high
was
school.
talking about, I don't think in the 7 or 8, 9 period schedule, I want kids to have who I label to be great people. I want them to have at least 2 or 3 of the people who we all know in the schools are harder to deal with. Some people might call them bitches or assholes. I do not. I love everyone. I don't care. I love them. I think they're doing the best they can do. They're doing awesome. But some kids experience them as hard. So I don't want them to have everyone who they like and likes them, because that's not working. Now, you said, how should we deal with you as an asshole? Tell me about it. And I'll tell you what I think about it, but tell me about it. How should we have dealt with you as the asshole? What should we
let me give you an example.
Yes.
And I'll walk you through the whole example, because it's a long example. Now, when I went to high school, as I do in many things, is I learned what the guidelines are, because I would always try to just stay barely into what the guidelines are. So I looked at the rules. You need this many credits to graduate. You need this many credits of this and this many credits of that. I did not like math, okay? So I figured out, between the years of going to school, how many credits and how many classes I needed to take in order to satisfy the necessary requirement to do math. Senior year, I made my schedule. Everything was cool. I skipped college prep algebra because I didn't have to do it, and yada, yada, yada. Signed up for an art class. Now, senior year comes around. I sit down with Mrs. Cax, and she tells me that I have to take a math class. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm reading through here, and I did the requirement. I did all the requirements. I want to take art because I'm a fruity dude, and I like art, and that's what I want to take, and I can give 2 shits about algebra, right? And she said, well, too bad. And I said, okay. And then I thought to myself, if she's going to make me take it, I'm going to get kicked out of this class. So it was the first class of the day. I'd go get cookies from the cafeteria. I'd sit them. I'd be late. I would just not show up. I didn't want to do it. Yada yada yada. So thinking that if they kicked me out of the class, I'd be able to take my art classes, which I wanted to take. So one day I go there and everyone's taking a test, and I show up late, and the teacher's mad at me, and she hands me the test, and I get kicked out of the class finally. And the reason I get kicked out is because I grabbed the test and I said, "Oh shit, I forgot a pencil." I said that exact phrase, and she said, "That's it. I've had enough. I'm kicking you out." Now, when I get kicked out of the class, where do they send me? Do they send me to the art class I want to go to? No. They put me into pre-law, like a law class. Like, who knows anything about law in fucking high school? So the moral of the story is I followed the rules. They penalized me. I didn't want to take it.
Hold on. Hold on one second.
I fulfilled the fiduciary duties. They told me I need to take X amount of credits of math, and I did it, and they screwed me.
I totally agree. When you say the moral of the story, you're like, sorry, I kicked out of this class.
Yeah.
I told her basically go fuck yourself. I'm not doing this.
I never said that. I said, oh shit, I forgot a pencil.
So anyway, yes, you cannot join a class after a certain time.
They put me into a class.
Hold on, like drop out in college, but more importantly, in any school system.
Why did they make me take math when I didn't need to?
That's a different story. Give me 1 second.
That's the story I want to talk about.
You can't join an art class because all the art classes have been closed for.
Don't bullshit me with your
okay.
bullshit.
Well, if you want me to print out the number of requests versus number of spots in any of the art classes at Piscataway, I will let you know. But your other question is completely valid and does speak to a long history that people had and tell you about going like, I went and talked to them.
They were just fucking with my head, man. Why were they making me take a math class when I knew I didn't have to take it?
Yeah.
And I didn't have to take it. Why were they doing that to me? And they're not explaining it to a child.
Because adults think that they know better.
Adults are stupid.
And they tell people and sometimes don't tell them what really are the rules. They just say one thing, So you're absolutely right. You only in New Jersey, you only need 3 years of math. The only things you need 4 years of are English and phys ed. English and phys ed. Every other thing you need 3 years of in terms of history, science, and math. 1 year of foreign language, 1 year of an elective that's art-based, 1 year of an elective of career-based, half a year now of personal science literacy, and then you graduate. And that means you can finish all that with many elective credits, and they should have let you take the electives you want.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
You want to hear something else that's fucked up? A new teacher in high school, there was a new teacher, coming to the school, whatever. And I was in her class, and then after one of the classes, she's like, "What was your name?" And I told her, and she's like, "Oh, I heard about you. You're on a list." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You're on a list of the people that I was told to watch out for." And I'm like, that is fucked up.
No, I believe in that.
You believe in that?
I do. I believe in that.
What was I doing? I wasn't doing anything, man.
I don't think that it was her place.
Why would she have told me that, too?
I don't think it was her place to have shared that. I don't think it was her place to have shared that. But I believe that you create a narrative that starts when you enter and ends when you're done.
You get that red letter on your fucking chest. You're done, dude. That's it. You can't change it.
No way.
Well, that was my experience.
That's unfortunate that you think that.
I fell through the cracks, dude. Didn't give a shit about old Andy.
Well, that's why you need to be labeled and identified so that you don't fall through the cracks. They've since we've gone to school, right, in the late 80s, 90s, early 90s, they've come up with new systems. They tier them. And when you hit certain benchmarks, you're a tier 1 or 2 or 3. And it should be known in the school so that people can give feedback.
They just used it to be like, we got to avoid this kid. He's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. I mean, I get the drawback. I get the drawback that you can redefine yourself in every given situation, and it shouldn't have a carryover. But when there's passing time and outside of school and inside, before school and after school and lunch and all that, and like it's really more like how we spend the days in this.
I really needed to be in one of those Fame schools, like in that movie Fame.
Well, what you're hoping for is really an argument that should be had with our peers, because it's our peers. Well, it's our peers who are the ones who are more in favor of a hierarchical, I'm going to tell you, and social control, and you need to. Now, again,
there's my kid to get his GED, man. I wish I would have just got my GED. It's all bullshit. Just go get your GED.
More people should do that, in the sense that it would alleviate the burden on public school and people.
Go get to work. Go get a trade. Like, people, go become a bricklayer or something. You don't have to go to fucking high school.
Let me tell you what has happened. In the 70s and 80s, apparently, or especially
Ralph
my
just said, wait, hold on. Ralph just said this is a daytime conversation, not an after dark conversation. We can go back to talking about Magic the Gathering, although I don't know if that's really a nighttime conversation either.
Oh, well, whatever you want to talk about, I'm down to talk about.
No, I'm just fucking with you. I don't care. I'm still talking about this because.
But what happened was back in the day, like, and I remember hearing stories not just from my parents, but also people who went to school in the 70s and the 80s. Like, there was an accountability model as far as schools went.
I'm still here. I gotta fix the video.
Schools were a vehicle by which accountability happened. Like, parents entrusted schools to be the accountability for when they weren't there. But then our generation, my peers, your peers, the people that went to school in the late 80s, 90s, who are now birthing all these kids in the new generation, has said to themselves, I'm going to go fight school and give them my opinion. And so school is no longer where an accountable to a kid, like, I'm going to teach you a lesson and you're going to learn it until you get out of here. No, school is an opportunity in this country to be taught and led and be molded by the greatest people we have in high school. The best, and you can use that model as much, but we are not going to stunt. Like, when you were in high school, we didn't stop all the kids who didn't get it and go like, you can't graduate.
I didn't get it. They should have stopped me. They should have been like,
well,
they just fast-tracked my ass. They're like, get the fuck out of here. That's because property taxes drives the ability to fund schools, and we don't have Catholic schools. A huge waste of money. I should have went to the public school. My parents would have saved thousands of dollars.
Well, we don't have the ability to fund the ability for people to figure it out in high school. They have to graduate high school and move on and continue to try to figure it out. The model of high school is not built to train people to be ready for the workforce or the army or the world like it was.
Man, I wasn't prepared for a goddamn thing.
In the 60s, like my parents, my mom had kids at 20, my father was 22.
Man, the dollar stretched so much further back then. They have no idea what the fuck we're going through right now.
Correct.
They have no idea, man. They got their pensions and shit.
So high school's job no longer is to be the accountable, you have to learn how to be ready to be an adult. Instead, we are a place to give them an opportunity to learn and grow as much as they possibly can. And then we move them along to the next group. And that's college or maybe low-income jobs or what's happening in the community colleges are, like Bernie Sanders says, he wants to be able to go and they can get free access to workforce development, HVAC, machinists, cosmetology, auto.
I love plumbing, dude.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And that takes just a GED or a high school diploma, and then a restart.
Well, Bernie's out. We got Biden. You know,
it's true.
People are. I don't like to get political, but Biden. I said this. I'll say this. This is before I found out that Bernie dropped out. I wrote on my Twitter because I feel comfortable writing whatever on my Twitter. I wrote Biden is fucking creepy because he creeps me out. He's a creepy guy. He's a creepy guy. Have you seen the videos where he's like touching, like he's like, "Hey, everyone for a picture," and he's touching people on the shoulders and shit, and it's so creepy.
Well, Leo wasn't shy to send me, like, immediately after it happened, Joe Rogan saying that he won't vote for Biden.
Yeah.
He'd rather vote for Trump. And then,
People got
and then I looked at Trump's Twitter, and Trump retweeted 2 different versions of that. So that makes me feel bad. Honestly, like, do I prefer Bernie? Of course. But do I think it's a no question? Like you were saying earlier about Mike Pence, at least I think Biden is more in the line.
I can't wait to see those debates. That's all I could tell you, man. Those debates are going to be hilarious because Donald Trump is funny, and Joe Biden's going to be like, "That's a bunch of malarkey," and Trump is going to say some funny things.
Well, Joe Biden literally, like, again, let me tell you an interesting, funny story. And again, I love my dad, so I hope that he doesn't get mad that I said this story. But it reminds me of people of the generation, right? Joe Biden, I think my dad are very similar in terms of their moral compass. And, like, really, I think they want to do the best they can, right? So when my father was on a school-based trip that my mother was running and heard a kid say something very questionable, offensive to my mom, he, like, reached across and just choked the kid up, and I'm standing there watching it happen, and I was like, Dad, stop. And he's like, "Do you hear what he just said?" And I was like, and so I think Joe Biden reminds me of the same guy. He's like, Joe, you can't choke the person who said something you didn't like. And so I like that about him. I think that he's, like, not going to take any shit, but he's 112 years old too. And also, I do like Joe Rogan model of saying, why don't we move to a system like Star Wars where there's a panel? Why can't we get 12 people? 9 people. How about 9 people? So there's like a like the civil, like the Supreme Court. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I don't know if we're gonna, I don't know if we're gonna figure out the.
I'm okay with Joe Biden. 1,000% I'm okay with Joe Biden because I really believe. Yeah, because I think that the problem mostly is.
Yeah, whatever. It's the same, dude. It's the same on each side.
No.
Same. Nothing's gonna happen.
Oh, no.
Gonna happen on one thing, gonna happen on the other. Doesn't matter. People are gonna get upset. People are gonna be like, "Oh, this is happening. Oh no!" And then nothing's gonna happen. And then a pandemic comes, and then people are like, "Hey, you knew what he was doing. It was his fault." Like, they're pointing fingers. Nobody knows what's going on. It's a bunch of bullshit.
I don't understand. I do hear what you're saying, but I don't understand why people don't think that the dismantling of all of the layers of people who had jobs, the system of government, and again, I'm a part of. I'm part of a union.
You are a big part. I'm learning more and more. You're a big part of the fucking system.
I am. I am a state worker who's going to make a pension, and the reason I make a good salary is so I can live in the town that I serve. People in, stuff like that. Like, so I get that I'm part of the problem, but the reason that Trump's administration is failing is because he decided to not actually appoint people into the administration.
Failing? What do you mean he's failing? He's winning. People love him. He's still doing what he wants to do. He don't give a shit. I don't mean
popularity. I mean the reason the layers are falling apart is because there are a lot of layers that he decided to not fund the jobs for. I get it.
There's always something, though. There's always something. And the funniest thing to me is, like, people were like, "Oh, we're going to impeach him. We're going to impeach him, blah, blah, blah." And they were so excited, and we're going to impeach him, and this is going to be the end, and blah, blah, blah. And then they impeach the motherfucker. But guess what? When you impeach somebody, he don't go anywhere. And he's still here, and they're still, now they're like, "Well, this will change it." Boop, 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 boop.
Well, what do you mean? What do you listen? It is not a small thing to get impeached by a half of. It's not a small thing to lose the popular vote or to get impeached by half the side of government, like or one of the 3 parties of government. Right? You're right. The Senate which happened to fall in his favor, didn't impeach him. You're absolutely right. That being said, wait, hold on. We are living the result of what's happening. Every day of our lives, we're living the result of what has happened. It's not directly attributable to him. However,
there's crazy shit going on during every fucking presidency. Everybody is full of shit. Everyone puts on these rose-colored glasses, and guess what? It's been the same bullshit every single time with every single one. This one's gonna do this. This one's gonna do that. Nothing happens.
I think that anybody who has not been in charge of a thing that has a lot of moving parts then doesn't understand the complexity of self. Listen, every single show on HBO and Showtime runs the formula of what I'm talking about, where it's just like, it's so easy, and then they give you a thing that goes like, oh man, I guess it's not so easy. And like they teach you like, oh,
teachable moments.
Well, when I was a kid, when I went on again, I went to Catholic schools as well. We went to retreats, and we did these works, like small groups where we had to do this. I keep doing this a lot. I'm sorry about that. But also, the game Scruples, where you pull a card and you give people like a question, and it's not an easy answer. Like, do you want to blow up the plane of 240 or let it fly into a city of 1,000? You know, that's what it's like, though. Like, you
got to pick a less number. I mean, you got to just go cold logic on that one.
Well, what if the plane had Einstein on it?
You couldn't possibly know that, so that's not your fault.
Well, but then you did blow up Einstein, and you retarded.
I think Einstein would have agreed with me. I think Einstein would have been like, Andrew had your points.
I get it, but then you retarded. But I'm telling you now, you now know it. And what would you do now? Otherwise, would you retard?
No, I'm not Kreskin. That's illogical.
That's how they used to ask it. They would go like, okay, let me give you a premise. And then they would go, okay.
If I knew it now, if I was like, then yeah, I guess I'd say Einstein. I don't know. So I would probably do the same thing. More people.
There you go. So even if Einstein was on that plane, you would blow up the 1,000.
Fuck Einstein, man. Fuck him. No, I mean, you just I don't know. You'd have to go with the more people. What if the other people were like? What if there was a couple Marie Curies on?
Well, that is true. That is true. However, Einstein has done a lot to advance the population. You know it. It's not a question. He's done it.
Well, now you got me. Scruples, you say.
So this question, this thing, like Ralph says, right? Ralph asks all the time, and he's totally right. We introduced personal financial literacy in schools. Mm-hmm. We should introduce civics. This type of thing. Like, what would you do if a pandemic breaks out, kids? Like, we should make them talk about.
Why would you even like? Would it?
Because it's morality. It's collective understanding of what's morally right.
I guess that's where my Bible classes did come in handy.
Morality doesn't have to be religious. Morality has to be a collective understanding.
You learn a lot of things from the Bible that are moral. Some of the things are moral.
But civics.
Huh?
Talk to Ralph. I'm telling you, civics. It's a question of teaching people about how government works, how community works, how morality works amongst that community. Why are laws the way they're written? Like, why should we respect the nature of the whole? Like, these are lessons that are
beyond all that.
Well, we need to teach it in public school. That's where it needs to be. We don't need to teach them.
Who gets to decide what, the moral? There's people teaching that there was dinosaurs and Jesus Christ were hanging out.
The state of New Jersey decided to teach kids financial literacy, not a whole year, just a half year, 2.5 credits of financial literacy, right? So the question is, why would you teach 17-year-olds, and sometimes the kids take it in freshman or sophomore year just to get out of the way, right? So 14-year-olds about things like progressive tax, how to put away money for a mutual fund. That's literally what they're doing. So instead, if you think something's valuable to teach the next generation, don't teach them about finance. They don't even have money or a salary or any money to finance
teach
anyway.
Them about finance.
Teach them about finance. Civics. Teach them about moral and civics and your connection.
Teach them about finance. They don't give a fuck about any of that other shit. But if you tell them, hey, I'm gonna save you a couple $100, then they're like, okay, I'll listen to you. What do you got to say?
Well, they don't have any dollars to save. They're whores. They don't have any money. They need to know about questions like we just asked. What would you do if
being moral ain't gonna help you if you ain't got no goddamn job, man?
That's my point. They don't have a job. They'll never have a job. They're 14 or 16. They don't know. They don't imagine a job, but they do imagine how to be nice to the next person.
No, you got to teach that Sesame Street shit when they're younger, and then in high school you got to teach them how to balance a checkbook.
No way. High school kids are thriving to talk about how to be. They want to be like
morality and
you know who's willing to lead all the like fundraisers in the world. You know how many car washes could be funded by high school kids or any like they're dying to be the high school
kids.
What are you
talking about? You telling me a kid wants to work at a car wash?
High school kids are a unpaid workforce that doesn't care.
Why aren't they getting paid if they work at a car wash?
Because it's an activity they can do amongst each other and have fun.
Activity?
Yeah.
Washing cars. What kind of brainwashing fucking bullshit are you trying to do, man? You're gonna convince some teenagers to be like, listen, we're gonna let you guys wash cars, and they're gonna be like, yay.
Listen, you know how many times the Presbyterian Church, which went to the Catholic Church, but I went to youth group at the Presbyterian Church because it was way cooler. It was way cooler, and my friends went there, and that was. My mom eventually got the job as the director of the daycare center at the same Presbyterian church that I used to go to. Yeah, well, I had an amazing time there. Yeah. Well, I forgot how I was talking about. Presbyterian church that I used to go to.
Uh-huh.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Excellent. Perfect. Checkmate.
What were we talking about?
I don't know. Last thing I remember was Magic the Gathering, dude. I can't wait to play. They came out with a new set. They just 2020 Commander. They just spoiled that. That's going to be out soon. There's a new set coming out that I'm personally going to avoid. I have a couple booster boxes of the previous set that I thought was really cool, and they're just sealed up. And I'm thinking about just making a video. I'm thinking about just making videos of me going through the decks. You know, just going through and explaining the cards and stuff. Well, crazy.
You're the way you describe it and the questions I want to ask. Like I'm going to ask questions, and I think that you're not going to answer them because I think that you're going to think it's giving away the point, right? But
I'll answer questions.
All right,
I'll answer any questions.
Okay.
Ask me anything.
You said about 8 decks since like
at least.
Okay. Let's talk about the top 2 or 3 that you like, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about colors first. Just give me the first deck. Give me colors.
The first deck would probably be I believe the ability is called Afterlife. I could be wrong.
That's the void color.
Or Mummify. What's the one where you can like zombify the creature? It goes to the graveyard.
Green and black.
Embalm. An Afterlife Embalm deck, which like it's like a blue-white, which is super weird for those colors to have this ability. But it's like this recursive deck where you could like throw things away and then get them back and then make tokens and stuff like that.
So it's similar to a black deck where you can put things to a graveyard, retrieve them from.
It's a little different, but it's kind of similar, and it has a lot of synergy. It came out of left field, like I never thought about it, and boom, it was there.
Now what's the next one?
It's a red-white kind of aggro-y deck. Like, oh wait, hold on a second. Okay, so there's a red-white aggro-y deck that I just kind of slapped together.
Now let me talk about that real quick.
It's got like
I know you say aggro. I know you say aggro, but I want to know towards what end. It's red-white where I'm trying to achieve the end of I'm going to gain life, fuck with you,
you're going to attack aggro. You're going to attack with creatures until he doesn't have any more life left.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah. So there's a red white one, and then there's this is my sleeper favorite. It's a June deck. It's red, black, and green, and it's walls. It's walls, and then like you could pump creatures up. It's really weird, but like I made it out of these random cards, and I thought it was
Well,
fun.
what was the link though? Walls that you can somehow make, not
Walls
walls.
that make a lot of like mana, and then there's walls that do a bunch of damage somehow, and it was just and then if you have a certain amount of walls, you get to do this. Like,
And are they so they're all like multiplayer? It sounds like the ones you're making.
What do you mean? They're not like
Well,
tournament
walls aren't going to work in a 2-player. You know, walls are not going to survive
This
against.
one might. This one might. It's pretty weird, but I think
Right out the gate. Right out the gate against the beast. Right out the gate against the beast. You're gonna survive with walls.
I mean, I guess the only chance, the only way we'll actually know is if we
Play. I get it.
Challenge each other. So, whenever
Well,
that happens.
apparently, everyone who has kids can't play Magic until the kid is 5. Apparently, that was the last edict I heard from the high council.
Is that if you have kids, you can't play Magic the Gathering?
Until you're 5.
No, that's not true.
That's what I'm telling myself. So I can, because when you didn't have a kid, I still couldn't play for like the last 2 months. And now your kid is like 5, 3. How old's your kid? 3 months old?
4 months.
4 months old. And so we haven't played Magic in 6 months, 7 months.
Well,
8.
I mean, I think it's cool. I think if push came to shove, I could set something up here, at the Casa, and then we could just kind of figure it out as we go. But he's getting older. There's got to be a certain point where either you guys could come over here. I've been clearing out the garage.
You're gonna set up a good spot. We're gonna come over there. We're gonna get to the point almost pretty quickly that we can reduce the numbers of social distancing. In terms of how long you feel like you've been quarantined without, to a reasonable amount of people. 4 people, 6 people, something like that. I'm not talking about having a huge party, but me, Ralph, can come over without sitting.
Dude, I got faded at your Zoom birthday. That was the most surreal thing, like hanging out with everybody, this rotating cast of people in a Zoom thing, like on my TV. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was great.
I drank a lot. I drank too much, and I paid the price.
Well, you were fine. At least by 6 the next night, you were all right. You were bounced back. So
I mean, I was super tired that day, and definitely didn't need to go that far, but I did have a couple drinks in me, and I was a little schnockered. Let's just say that.
You did great.
Thanks. How did you do?
Well, I mean, people that said, "How was your birthday?" It was like, it was great. As good as it could be for what it was. Be one to be remembered.
That's the spirit.
But what's weird for all of us probably is that we're doing our jobs online. Like, I know at least for teachers, we're spending a lot of time on this platform. And now in my personal life with my family and friends, in this life, I'm on a podcast. In my, educational life, I'm on IEP meetings and all that. So it's weird. I said to my father, like, I had heard a Joe Rogan podcast where he talked to the guy who created Quake or Doom, and he said to Joe Rogan that at some point in the next 20 years, 30 years, he said 70% of our lives are going to be spent in augmented reality.
Not me, man. Not me. Well, I'm going to be that holdout, bro.
I get it,
I'm going to be that holdout.
Well, I heard him say that, and then and I brought it up when I was talking to, especially my father. I was at a function, maybe my mom's birthday, like early March, something, and he was like, he's an engineer and he's a very mathematical guy. He's like, no, and I was like,
I'm a pretty mathematical guy, I gotta admit.
He just like couldn't wrap his head around the idea of like, but
Please don't tell me you were trying to explain Magic the Gathering to him, because you are not good at explaining that.
I did try to do that at some point, but no. But I was trying to explain to him the sense that augmented reality and putting on a virtual world could bring somebody who is in financial situations or like people who are in Africa can go see what the Louvre looks like. You know what I mean? Like so, like the premise that he's saying seems outlandish, but within a month or two, we were hurtled into this world of like now all of education is being delivered.
All of everything, man. We're streaming all kinds of shit.
Yeah, and so we are doing that. I'm looking at screens, whether it's this screen or TV or my phone.
I fucking hate screens, man.
Well, so
I'm hanging out with my kid and I got my phone and I'm like, I feel like a real asshole.
Trek. You know, it's Star Trek. You know, like whether is it, you know,
it's like shitty Star Trek. It's like right before Star Trek got good. Like Star Trek First Contact is like supposed to be like when, you know.
We're the building blocks. You know.
But it's not. I tried to watch the last Star Wars last night and I passed the fuck out. I got to go back and watch it. I've been really putting.
Well, that's what everyone's trying to do, right? Everyone's trying to find something that, you know, they can gravitate to. Did you see Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura's stand-ups in?
I didn't finish Bert's yet. I like Tom.
Tom Segura's
funny. My favorite recent one has been Fortune Feemsters. Hers is like the funniest fucking.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's so.
He did a great. Yeah, she was a great
on. Dave Chappelle won the Mark Twain Award. And
well,
they have that on Netflix.
That was great. That was great.
It's pretty funny.
Heartfelt in many moments, like the Aziz Ansari one. Yeah. That was really, you know.
Could you imagine, like he just got up on stage, was really good at it, and he did it since he was like 16, 17. Like that's insane. Could you imagine? Like I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was that age. Like I had no idea.
Steve Leonard and Don. That's exactly what they did. Like Steve Leonard has been doing exactly what, and he also does computers. I get, you know, but like, yeah. I've been around some friends. My brother Bob, who was like 10,
and he was to be like.
He literally would take, you know, like a tape recorder where you have to like double hit it, you know, like that box, right? Put it, and he turned the sound off, and he would do a recording, right? He would do the play-by-play, or he always would turn the TV off and set a radio that would give the game. So it was like we're gonna watch the Rangers, and or the Giants, and he's gonna make sure that the radio accompanies the game because he thinks the radio broadcast. And what's interesting too is
like better at it.
He always liked music too. And he loved radio. Like he was like
we're getting real screwed with all this internet shit.
He loved Howard Stern. Like the idea of
using the technology of radio, it's like so lost that.
Dude, my brother is a radio head. Like all the features that are good about radio is what makes him. I bet he thinks good about like TV. Like TV's like easy because you don't have to say anything.
What's the deal now when there's no sport ball, dude?
Well, fortunately for my brother, it comes at the best time of year, right? Like so normally he would be calling games in March because basketball's going on. But after that, it's April, May, June, and he definitely always has gigs. He does golf. He can do.
What are you gonna do in golf?
He can always do gigs. But his gigs, his real gigs, are the Jets, college football, and college basketball, and that starts in like July and goes through March. You know, and April, May, June, he's like. So he's fortunately for him, him and I have not spoken about this, but I guarantee, fortunately for him, he's in the best situation possible in the sense that. He gets paid, you know, already, and he's going to get paid for gigs upcoming. I hope.
So do you think by then it'll be like those sport balls will be back in, those specific categories of sport balls will be back in?
Listen.
What's your estimated time of arrival?
I think let me put it this way. I think more importantly from maybe my brother, if anyone's going to go back to work, it's the players and the guy who announces what the players are doing. And that's it.
They're like, sorry,
you know what I mean?
cheerleaders. The cheerleaders like, well, we can't do it. No.
So if the players are going to go out and play in any sport.
Play.
You know, like let's say they hold them up in Vegas. They go like, all right, everyone's going to Vegas. We're going to put them in Vegas, and we're going to do everything out of Vegas. Because again, I've worked basketball camps where there's a game at 8, there's a game at 10, there's a game at 12. You know, like you can play 8 or 10 games in a day. You know, like you just bring the players in, play the game, and they get out. Bring the players, you know, like so.
That sounds super exciting.
Well, you're going to need somebody who's going to tell you what's going on. And I think my brother is a very good candidate. So as long as people value sports, they should value the one person who can tell you about sports very clearly. And again, to his credit, he has been doing it since he's like 7 or 8 years old. It's crazy. It's bizarre. He's built for it. It's crazy.
Well, I can't wait to see what the sport ball, is.
Have you been watching any of the versions of sport ball that are going on? Meaning, you can bet on various things that are, there's
like Johnny Gambino. I'm not betting on shit. I don't
video games. What about video games?
I don't gamble. I don't bet on things, dude. No.
Have you been watching any of the reruns of
what part of I don't like sport ball? Don't you understand, man? I'm not watching any sport.
Magic the Gathering Championships of 2016. The Magic the Gathering Championships of 2016. I'm sorry. Anyway, have you seen the Tiger Man?
The Tiger King? Yeah, definitely. I've
seen it. What do you think?
I got really sad at the end for all the tigers, man, because they're just being assholes. No?
I just thought I was pretty offended as a gay guy that he was really, he was misrepresenting what it means to. Because that was really one of the
if anything, he was a sociopath first, tiger owner second, and his sexual proclivity is like a distant.
If there was no throuple marriage, do you think this would? Do you think without a throuple marriage this would have gone? And also, so you know, the throuple marriage that has been released, you can get it on now. You can the whole thing. You can watch it.
How he convinces these guys to be his lovers, but they're like, I guess they have to be sort of bi. Maybe he's just maybe they are straight and they're just totally
one of the guys is now married with kids and living a straight life for whatever that means. Now again, Leo, who's no longer with us tonight, is completely convinced that not about this guy, but just about any guy, that's not possible. But I believe that's possible. Honestly, listen, give the man credit. He had an entire kingdom of cats that he did a bunch of things around that none of us would have so.
I'm more impressed with the other guy. What was the other guy with the hat?
Dazzling. It's like playing guitar. Yeah, the guy. Low, whatever his name is.
Yeah, whatever.
Give me a second. I'll be right back. Give me a second.
Where are you going?
Me.
Well, I think we're going to. I think this is. I think we're done. I think we're good. I think we're good. I'm a little insulted that WOOBIE doesn't appreciate, songs as I made them, and
I'm coming. Before you sign off, I want to say one thing.
What?
The reason that
what?
No, the reason that the system was so fluently able to go from we all go to schools to now we don't in such a crazy, amazing way is because the network was in place. And like that took a lot of people spending a lot of their tax money to support all of us who work in education doing that. But it worked. And like within 2 weeks, we transitioned an entire system of delivery, like fluently, like right into something else, which is insane. And so to all the people that are working for the NJEA, like you're killing it because like in no other group of people have the system in place to do what we did.
Wow.
So it's true. Like
bold statement.
The communications union is the only other one that could probably, challenge that. But other than that, like,
well, on that note, WOOBIE, I'd like to say this went really, really well. We talked for a really long time, and all of this is for mainly my amusement. So everything went off without a hitch. I really need to. You haven't even seen any of the episodes, the After Dark episodes. You haven't heard any of them, right?
I haven't. Do you release them on my podcast?
No, I have to. I still have to convert all this bullshit over, but I'm gonna do it. Pretty soon here.
Okay, we'll do it. That's where I listen to everything. I've listened to all your. I've listened to every episode of Totally Local.
Well, you should try. You got to try and get Leo to.
SMBC.
You gotta try and get Leo back on the show. You don't have to do anything. Just suggest maybe that's a good idea.
I have multiple times. The way you can get him back on the show is you need to call him and invite him.
I've texted him, dude. It's too difficult.
No,
Friday or Saturday. We'll be doing Totally Local After Dark Friday or Saturday. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Oh, I need you. Hey, WOOBIE, I need you to do a little dance while I'm playing the song. You can hear the song, right? Can you hear the song?
I can, but I have to hear what the part is.
Just dance. All right, it's Totally Local After Dark. All right, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, WOOBIE. I will be in touch. It's been Totally Local, TotallyLocalPodcast.com, After Dark. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.